I'm Patrick-Goudreau from joyfulvegan.com. Welcome to Vegan Point of View. I hear a lot of people say things like, just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're healthy. Many vegans eat junk food and are overweight, or they offer unsolicited advice to someone they see in person or in a photo of or on the media, and they say, too bad they're overweight. If they became vegan, they'd lose weight. Or a vegan will say things like, I want to lose weight and I want to look my best. I want to be fit so I can inspire others to be vegan as well. Well, that's one point of view. Here's my point of view. There's a lot to say about this topic, and I've talked about it a bit over the years, particularly in my podcast, Food for Thought. And one of the catalysts for writing that podcast episode, and for doing this video, was an email I received from a woman named Laura several years ago. She wrote, I am an overweight vegan and I feel embarrassed that I'm not a good representative for the cause. I'm trying my best to get my weight down, but it's a struggle. When people introduce me or when I tell people that I'm vegan, I'm immediately embarrassed. What can I do to think about this differently? No, I'm glad the question wasn't what can I do to lose weight, because obviously that's not the point. This email and others like this that I've received absolutely break my heart. Of course, feeling badly we don't conform to society's notions of beauty is something felt by all of us, vegan or not. But I certainly noticed this in the vegan community, especially as of late. The pressure to be a certain way, to look a certain way, and even to eat a certain way is immense. And this is especially felt by those of us who want to be the best ambassadors for the animals. This is one of the reasons it drives me crazy when I see some vegan organizations and some authors and individuals make promises about what will happen if you go vegan. When you go vegan and you'll lose weight. Go vegan and your skin will glow like never before. Go vegan and you'll have boundless energy. Go vegan and you'll never be sick again. Gee, no pressure there. And so what happens when someone becomes vegan based on those promises and they don't lose weight? They don't suddenly have perfect glowing skin. What happens when they feel tired or hungry or, God forbid, they get a cold? I've heard from so many vegans who are afraid to even admit when they have a cold or flu because they don't want to be a negative representative of veganism. What happens is that either the person or veganism or both appears to be a failure. Something is wrong with either you or something is wrong with veganism. So based on these expectations, if people don't live up to them, they're failures. One thing I've learned in my vast experience on this earth, the many years I've been on this earth, is the surefire way to be disappointed is to have expectations. Whenever I've been disappointed, it's because I had expectations that couldn't be met or weren't met. And here's what else I know. Veganism is not a diet. You can eat any number of ways under this huge umbrella. I talked about this in the processed foods video. Have your pick and enjoy. Being vegan is a means to living according to our own values of compassion and kindness, doing what we can, doing our best to not contribute to violence against others where we have the power to do so. At least that's what compelled me to stop eating anything that came off of or out of an animal when I became vegan 17 years ago. And that's what I see being the impetus for thousands, for millions of people. And this, I guarantee, being vegan is not a formula for immunity against being human. This may disappoint some of you, but when we become vegan, we remain human, thus imperfect. We have vulnerabilities and frailties, and we still succumb to all the challenges and foibles that come with being human. And so if your expectation is that you will become some kind of superhuman by becoming vegan, then I'm afraid you will be gravely disappointed. Now, just because you don't become superhuman upon becoming vegan doesn't mean there aren't so many joys and benefits to living according to your values. Now, of course, I want to be healthy, and I want my loved ones to be healthy as well. And I even experienced health benefits when I became vegan. But that's still very different than making promises about what will happen when you become vegan, what will happen to everyone. I mean, kind of talked about in this very generalized way. When people ask me about the health aspects of being vegan, I offer some general things about what we know about the rates of heart disease and diabetes and cancer in vegans versus people who eat animal flesh and secretions. We do have studies to back that up. And I share my story of the health benefits I experience, but I don't say, and if you go vegan, that will happen to you too, guaranteed. I don't even say that in the 30-day vegan challenge. There are promises I make, but I could back every one of them up. If you want to read chapter 1 called Welcome to Positive Change, the first chapter in the 30-day vegan challenge, visit the 30dayveganchallenge.com. But I don't make guarantees that are impossible for anyone to make good on. I wouldn't do that to you, and I wouldn't do that to me. Now, I remember when Kathy Freston was on the Oprah show as an ambassador for veganism when one of her books came out, and she is a fantastic ambassador for veganism. She's intelligent, she's compassionate, and she's absolutely gorgeous. She's absolutely beautiful. And I remember in one of the clips, one of the staff members who agreed to do Kathy's vegan cleanse was talking to Kathy, and she was very angry. And she said something like, I'm resisting doing this. I'm resisting doing what you're suggesting I do, but I want to feel better about myself. And heck, if being vegan means I could look like you, then I'm all in. Now, this is TV. It's a TV show. Like all TV shows, it's highly edited, and I have no idea what Kathy said because her response wasn't in the final cut. I hope she said something like, "Well, you won't look like me because I'm me and you're you, but you'll look like you," and that's fantastic. And Kathy Freston is absolutely beautiful, right? Just absolutely beautiful. But you know what? Kathy Freston was absolutely beautiful before she became vegan. She and other thin, beautiful women have been held up as the model of what vegan women should and could look like, and it's just not accurate. Now, here's a promise I will make. You will not turn into Kathy Freston if you become vegan, but you will become a more realized version of your own beautiful self, just as she did, I'm sure. Frankly, when I first became vegan, there just wasn't this pressure. There wasn't this pressure about looking perfect when you become vegan. Like, it just wasn't there. Now, we certainly didn't have the internet then, and the microscope we have now that enables us to see more of each other and instantaneously express our opinions about one another. But I also think that because things are so bad in terms of the state of people's health at this point in our history, in our human history, there is an increase in people's interest in eating more healthfully and particularly more plants and fewer animals. There are so many people picking up on that, and that's a good thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel better and to look better. We all want to feel our best, and we all want to look our best. But hear me and hear me now. There is no such thing as a perfect vegan. There's no such thing as a perfect human. There's no such thing as perfection. There just is no such thing. And if that's what you're striving for, you will be disappointed. At any given moment, we can choose the barometer by which we measure ourselves. And if that barometer is perfection, then we're always going to fail. Depending on what that barometer is, we can perceive ourselves as just right or not good enough. And so in that way, it's really up to each of us. And even for those of us who are vegan advocates and want to inspire other people to expand and extend their compassion to animals, even as such, I don't believe we have anything to prove to anybody. A few years ago, I was giving a talk, and during the Q&A, someone said, "You look so good, you look so normal, you look so mainstream. You're healthy, you look good, you dress normally." These are words that she used. Do you do that on purpose in order to appeal to the general public, in order to attract people to veganism, as if I were doing it in a contrived way? And my answer was, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm comfortable dressing like. This is how I look. This is who I am. And of course, if people look at me and they say, "Oh, that's what vegan looks like," I don't mind because this is what vegan looks like. It's what this vegan looks like. And then I pointed around the room and I said, and that's what vegan looks like, and that's what vegan looks like, and that's what vegan looks like. We are as diverse as the general population. We come from all different backgrounds. We have many different styles. We come in all sizes and we come in all shapes. You being who you are is the best representation of veganism. You being you is the best ambassador for the animals, because in being who you are, in the fullness of who you are demonstrating just that this is what vegan looks like. We cannot please everyone. We can't try to fit ourselves into a mold because we think that's what will be the best representation of veganism to the person who's standing in front of us. What about the person who's standing behind that person and the person behind her? Perhaps they have different notions of what vegan looks like and you don't live up to them, but you live up to the next person's perception. I've heard every excuse in the book for avoiding being vegan. And it has nothing to do with what we as vegans look like. I've heard every excuse in the book from people. And in the end, that's all they are. Excuses based on their own perceptions, right? I mean, play out the scenario. Tucked in the back of one woman's mind, one random woman's mind, is the idea that she wants to be vegan. Then she meets a vegan who is slightly overweight, not svelte, not skinny, right? Not perfect. Honestly, I doubt that she, in her head, thinks, I really wanted to be vegan, but this person's overweight. I don't want to be overweight, so I'm not going to be vegan. If she does, if she says that, then that's merely the excuse that she's using. And if it weren't that excuse, it would be another excuse. It's not your fault or your responsibility either way. That's what I mean when I say we don't have to prove anything to anybody. There are plenty of skinny or thin, svelte vegans out there, and they aren't magical vegan makers just because they're not overweight. The people who are open to being vegan for one reason or another are open to it and ready for it, regardless of what the vegan next to them looks like. And if you shy away from speaking out for the animals because of your weight, because of your body image, then in my opinion, you're missing out on an opportunity to say exactly what that person may need to hear to help them awaken. You have to show up to be the voice, because if you don't, you're not being true to yourself and you're not being true to the animals. We need to be gentle with ourselves. We need to stop being so hard on ourselves, and we need to not let other people be so hard on each other. When we hear others putting other people down, we can say something. I'm appalled when I hear other vegans say things like, and I say this in this judgmental voice because this is what it sounds like to me, well, just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're healthy. There are plenty of vegans who eat junk food and are overweight. I mean, I'm just appalled at this. One of the reasons it bothers me so much, and clearly it does, is that it's usually women talking about other women. Not only does it perpetuate stereotypes about what women are supposed to look like, i.e. thin and perfect, the bottom line is that it's judgment dressed up as feigned concern, and it's ugly. And the reason I say feigned concern is that these statements are usually based on appearance, right? Not on any knowledge of the other person's life, first of all, or actual health profile or biomarkers, right? I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm really concerned about my mom or my friend. She told me her total cholesterol level is 300, and her doctor didn't even give her any information about how to eat healthfully in order to lower her cholesterol naturally, and I'm really hoping to help her out. She asked me if I could help her. It's quite another thing to say, so-and-so is vegan, but she's a junk food vegan, and it shows she's overweight. Just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're healthy, right? Very, very different. So first of all, who asked you? And what does someone else's weight have to do with you? And what's your point? It's just judgment. It's just judgment. How people eat is their business. How they dress is their business. How they live, what they wear, who they hang out with, what books they read, what movies they watch, what they eat, and what they weigh is their own business, as long as no one else is being hurt. I've talked about this in my, personal eating meat as a personal choice video and podcast. But in terms of the choices people make that don't harm anybody else, that's their business, not yours. And it doesn't fly that you would say, well, they're hurting themselves and I want to help them. If they didn't ask you for any help, it's not your business. It's just not your business. Now, you can create information and resources for people. You can create healthful recipes for people to follow. I do. You can even answer someone's questions if they ask you how to lose weight. I have a chapter in the 30-Day Vegan Challenge that offers the principles of weight loss, right? Because I know this is something people ask about. So I'm providing this resource for people who want to know, well, how can I do it safely? But A, nowhere do I say if you become vegan, you will lose weight. And B, in no way do I make a judgment or draw a conclusion about whatever weight you are or whatever kinds of foods you're eating. Frankly, I think this is all part of a larger issue. Being part of a society that's conditioned to equate beauty and worth and value with being thin. And as a result, I think overweight people just make us uncomfortable. It's not because we're so concerned about someone else's health. I think as a society, we're uncomfortable with people who are overweight. And so instead of talking about that, we couch our judgment in concern. Let me present an analogy. I evidently spend time in the sun. You can see that by just looking at me. It's usually just my face and my arms that have a bit of a tan, right? And in doing so, I am putting myself at risk for skin cancer. But how many people say, did you see her? She's a suntan. Just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're going to make the most healthy choices. Clearly, she spends time in the sun. Hello, skin cancer. We don't make that judgment. We don't have discrimination against tan people, even though they're doing something that we know is unhealthy for themselves. I should say myself. I'm doing something unhealthy by spending time in the sun, but I don't think I've ever seen a blog post about a tan vegan. However, we do take it upon ourselves to sit in judgment of vegans who may not look the way we think they should, and we couch it in concern for their health, right? As I said, just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're healthy. This judgment. Why does it happen so much in the vegan and plant-based community? I think it has to do with the fact that we're afraid that if someone isn't a perfect representation of what we think a vegan should look like, then they're a poor ambassador for all vegans, that they're a poor representation of us. In the end, I think it's about fear. I think it's about fear that we'll be judged by someone based on what someone else looks like. I believe that there's fear that we're somehow not living up to someone else's or our own expectations. Fear is the foundation of judgment, and judgment of someone else is anything but compassionate. Compassion isn't compassion when it's shown only to those who look like us or act like us or live like us. Compassion isn't true compassion when it's extended to only those who agree with us. Compassion is compassion when it's extended to people who don't agree with us, when it's extended to people who have different viewpoints than we do. Compassion is true compassion when it's extended to those who don't look like us and those who do, including those of other species. That is true compassion. Compassion is also about being compassionate with ourselves. And so it goes back to Laura's first question. Embrace yourself, Laura, and honor all you are in this world. Think bigger and outside of the confines of what our society says you should look like. Be compassionate with yourself, as you no doubt are with other beings. All of us say something nice about 5 people every day. I don't think we're aware of how much we criticize each other, most of the time without even thinking about it. Flip it around and make it our aim to praise each other every day. Just make it a habit. It will become a habit, and we'll be less inclined to cut someone down and more inclined to raise people up. And in doing so, we'll be raised up and we'll be happier and more compassionate people for it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'd love to know your thoughts about this. Have you ever experienced any kind of judgment against you for whatever you look like? How did you deal with it? Have you found yourself being judgmental without realizing it? I really want to hear your thoughts because I've heard from a lot of people about this issue, and I really want to hear what you think. So please comment below and subscribe to this channel, and join me over at joyfulvegan.com, where you can join the mailing list and support the kind of content I'm creating over here for all of you. For the animals, this is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Thanks for watching.